There are different ways that you can approach what it means to unconditionally love. And one definition of unconditional love keeps you feeling limited and guilty and like you need to keep up this facade. And one is actually just allowing yourself to keep your heart open and to stay in true love all of the time. Which definition do you have? Let's find out. To the whiteboard. Okay, so here is a powerful creator of reality. And they are standing in their reality and they have all of these definitions and beliefs about reality that filter their reality, and then they experience themselves as a physical reality. So they build their physical reality around them so that they can experience themselves as a physical matter reality. Now, this person has installed the belief about unconditional love where they have to keep showing up in the world around them for the people around them that they love. They keep having to do different things to be a type of person, to react in certain ways, to be this perfect version of them. Or they believe that if they don't do all of these things for the people that they love, and they decide, actually, I don't want to do that, and I don't want to show up as that person, they have a belief installed that tells them if they don't show up as that person, if they don't do all of these things, they don't love these people. And they're not showing these people that they love them. And that is a belief that limits us. It isn't unconditional love if you have set limits on yourself that you have to be, do, act, do all of these things for people to prove that you love them. That is not unconditional love. What true unconditional love actually is that you hold yourself in love no matter what happens between you and anyone around you. So you can show up, you can argue with this person, and you still don't decide that you aren't loving that person. Sometimes we hold ourselves in these like impossible standards of what we need to do to prove that we love people. But actually, people quite often come into our realities to bring us something to help us grow, which means that we are going to be challenged sometimes by people around us. And in that challenge, you might react in a negative way, or you might have a negative experience with a person so that you can receive the lesson from them. And then because you weren't this perfect individual you expect yourself to be, you say, oh, I'm standing outside of love. And you use that definition to convince yourself that you've closed your heart. And that is conditional love. That is you telling yourself that you have to act in physical matter reality in a particular way in order to believe that your heart is open. If you think about it, that is just impossible, because life is going to challenge you. Life is going to make you have to make decisions, make you have to choose yourself. And if you're constantly believing, if you're tying this belief that if you don't show up in your reality as this perfect, sparkly, gleamy, kind of conditional layout of a human being that you've decided means that you are showing love, then you're going to convince yourself that your heart is closed. But your heart isn't closed. You just have a belief that you have to show up in a particular way to be a loving being. You have these people around you so that you can have these experiences that sometimes aren't going to align with all of these strict rules and definitions of how to love somebody. Even if someone brings you a challenge, even if you stand outside of this designed, conditional way that you have decided means that you're a loving being. You have to know that you just are a loving being. And you don't have to see a person every single day. You don't have to do everything that a person wants you to do. You don't have to, sometimes I had to have a chat with myself recently, because I have this belief that if I don't respond to people's chats on my phone instantly, that I'm not being loving. But actually, sometimes there's just so much going on in your world. You can't keep up all of these spinning plates all of the time. Sometimes you have to balance your life. Sometimes it is going to take you a little while to get back to somebody. But it doesn't mean that you don't love that person. It doesn't mean that you have to tell yourself that you're not a loving, open-hearted being. That's just ridiculous if you think about it. And also, like, there are people, when you're on a transformational journey, you have these relationships that just no longer serve you at the moment, and they kind of drift away, and then you convince yourself that you've closed your heart. I do this sometimes to myself. I tell myself, if I think about old friends that I love, that I will always love, and then I think about the fact that I'm no longer doing all of these things that I used to do for them, I'm no longer seeing them all the time, and that makes me sometimes believe that I'm not a loving being, that I've closed my heart. And that makes me kind of cause this like energy between me and this person that I haven't seen for a long time that is negative. But actually, I can just love them no matter what. And that's what unconditional love is. No matter how the physical reality looks, you stay with an open heart. You just keep loving people. You keep them in your prayers. You keep wishing them well, no matter what physical reality looks like. We cannot show up for the whole world all day, every day, all of the time. Sometimes we need to prioritize other things. It doesn't mean we're not a loving being. That is what unconditional love is. It's being unconditional love, no matter how physical reality looks. It's standing with an open heart and saying, you may have drifted out of my life, but I still love you. It doesn't mean that I'm not an open-hearted, loving person. It just means that this is the way that reality is, and this is how life goes. Life is fluid. Then you'll stop convincing yourself you have a closed heart, and you'll stand in your love, and you will stop holding yourself to these ridiculous standards of all of these hoops you need to jump through to be an open-hearted human being, to be an unconditional loving human being. You already are an unconditional loving human being. You are love. You are love unless you convince yourself that you're not. That's the only time that you're not love, is when you pretend that you're not. And even then you're just pretending. So even if someone challenges you, don't convince yourself you've closed your heart. Just say, I'm just reacting. I'm just human, It doesn't mean that I've closed my heart. I'm still love. I hope this was helpful. And I hope that we can all just remember that we are love. No matter what, we are, the core of who we are is love. If you have any comments or questions, let me know in the comments. Lots of love.